I would like to ask you about the visit of Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba's representative to Beijing. 3-day visit. For the first time in 12 years, contact is at this level. How important do you think this visit is, and why, Mr. Yunus, is the contact between Kiev and Beijing at such a level right now?
The importance of the visit of Dmytro Kuleba, your foreign minister, there is better late, as they say, than never. This should have been done yesterday. But you are doing this today using the fire method. It's good. Therefore, the first point, I note this as a plus. A big plus. Because China, if it did not want to, China would not accept it. So, this is even a success for your new ambassador, who worked there. Because you also had an ambassador before, but this ambassador did not deal with it. Again, the ambassador is not to blame. The ambassador follows the instructions of the center, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today, this understanding has come. Kuleba gave such valuable instructions to his ambassador, and this ambassador is appointed by the president of the country. This is a decision of the country's top military and political leadership. And here is the result, your minister went there. Certainly, then, in the future, there may well be a meeting between Xi Jinping and President Zelensky. It will simply need to be prepared. The political situation must work for this. And plus, in order for such meetings to take place, here is the most important question, to which you must also find an answer, and what is China's interest in you, Ukraine? Because with regard to Russia, we all know today, you see how. You react painfully when either the Minister of Defense of Russia or the Minister of Foreign Affairs flies there, not to mention when the President of Russia and the leader of China meet, either there, or in Moscow. You immediately have horror stories, but why? And what do they want? Is it really against Ukraine? China has defended and will defend its interests by meeting with the Americans, meeting with the Russians, meeting with the Ukrainians, or meeting with the Europeans, definitely. Another thing is to make it profitable for China to meet, to invest profitably, to invest money. Look, the Chinese leader meets with the leader of Azerbaijan within the framework of the SCO 2 to 3 weeks there and ago. Why does it occur? This means that the topic has matured, which has reached this level. It means that the Azerbaijani political leadership was able to convey this topic, that is, the decision was probably made unequivocally at the highest level. This decision was brought down to the bottom by officials who worked with the Chinese direction. And in the end, they made it so that this content, that is, the form, is the content, and it arrived, lay on the table of the leader of China and explained, this is so, this is so, this is good, this is beneficial to China, one belt, one road, geography, logistics. So, they are working with Kazakhstan, they are working with Uzbekistan, and they have a trade turnover with Europe worth $700 billion, the western border is closing, the Trans-Siberian Railway is no longer working, so to speak, and what to do now? And they have already invested $1 trillion in this. The importance of this logistics is growing, which passes through Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey and there to Europe. He is told that Europe is already doing this, dealing with this region. So, we need to do the same. And they have already done this with Georgia, and now they are investing money in the port of Anaklia, they are starting to work there. Wherever China is already present, they have such economic expansion. Naturally, this is very good for those countries as well. This means that where China will be present, it will protect its interests. Look at Kazakhstan, an event a little over a year ago. Do you remember when there were large riots there? And when Russia sent its troops there? With such a finger they waved from Beijing. After 10 days Russian troops left there. And why did Beijing wave its finger like that? Because China is already powerfully there. It used to be the Soviet Union, and then Russia, and China did not work there. And today China is very strongly represented there. Do not forget, the current president of Kazakhstan, Mr. Tokayev, is a sinologist and is fluent in Chinese. He worked there as an ambassador, and he went through all the stages of the political establishment, the background, until he got there. He was an ambassador, and a minister, and a prime minister, and now a president. That is, he knows this whole structure, how it works, and you see how he maneuvers between Russia and China, and the plan. This is a multi-vector foreign policy, again, yes, and at the same time he has a strategic line. He works well with Europe, but he has a strategic line. These are the Turkic states, where the leading role, so to speak. is played, of course, by Turkey. And Azerbaijan is working with Turkey, after Azerbaijan has succeeded, thank Allah, in liberating the occupied territories, restoring sovereignty and territorial integrity. Look how the entire Turkic world rejoiced at this, led by Turkey. And the same Kazakhstan, and the same Uzbekistan, and all the other leaders of the Turkic world have already been in our holy city of Shusha the other day. And this informal meeting of the Turkic states took place there, and investments are made there, and schools are opened, and everything else that is connected. Because this is a family. That is, this is also a multi-vector approach. That is why all this, of course, is very important, and it would be good to see the consequences of this visit made by your foreign minister in terms of content. Because the more loyal China is to you, to Ukraine, and the more China is interested in you, the more loyal it will be to you, and the more interested it will be in this war to end as soon as possible, and it would end the way Ukraine wants it to. Because Ukraine is working with China in the same way, it is interested in China. Because the fact that China is working with Russia, and they had a trade turnover of 140 billion before the war, and now it has 240 billion. This means that Russia is working with the same China. Why didn't you work like that before? Therefore, this time has come, you are late, but thank God, you have already begun to do this, so the more you work in this area, the more it will help you to withstand such a difficult time for your statehood.
Mr. Yunus, a representative of the U.S. Department of Defense, Matthew Miller, has already commented on this visit. He said that it is important for Beijing to hear, to see the consequences of Russia's occupation war in Ukraine. And what you are saying is an important contact. I have a question. How and how realistically does the White House react to this visit? Was it the initiator of this visit? And how should the Kremlin and Putin react to this?
No, I have no doubt that Ukraine was the initiator of this visit. Ukraine has been working on this topic for a long time. Another thing is who else lobbied for the interests of Ukraine in this topic. It is definitely all those who work with the same China. All those who understand everything that I have just voiced to you in this regard, because they are interested in the end of this war, and they are interested in the economy working. Because this war today interferes with everyone. Certain centers make money on it, but it is destabilizing. Because wars must always end someday. And everyone understands that in order to end this type of war, they need the political will and influence of the main centers on the planet. Today, there are two such centers on the planet, the United States of America and China. Therefore, of course, to a certain extent, the United States of America could lobby, and, no doubt, at some level they were engaged in this, and that, in principle, as you can see, they have such a positive reaction. Another thing is that they will voice a certain narrative that China should behave this way. This is an American narrative, which they regularly say, because the Americans, so to speak, have an economic confrontation, primarily with China, and not with Russia. Therefore, they, on the contrary, have always used Russia as a deterrent. This was the case both in the days of the Soviet Union and in modern Russia. And they always used Russia against China up to a certain point, and then they used China against the same Russia in the 70s, when they got China to go against the Soviet Union. And they even had, remember, bloody clashes for Damansky Island. And then, when there was this Afghan adventure, Communist China fully supported, together with Pakistan, the United States of America and Saudi Arabia, China supported the Mujahideen led by bin Laden against the Soviet Union. Then, that is, China also took an active part. And what did China get for this? For this, China received a seat in the UN Security Council, a permanent member with the right of veto, from where Taiwan was removed. Until that time, Taiwan was there, because in the Security Council and in the United Nations, the parade was commanded primarily by the United States of America. And that's why they made such a castling in this way. And they also said that they recognize Taiwan as an indivisible part of China. This is its territory. The only thing is that there, on principle, like in Hong Kong, one state, but different systems. But as a result, Hong Kong is already in China. This means that China, it hopes, in the future will also return the same Taiwan without a single shot. Processes are going in this direction. Half of Taiwan is already pro-Chinese, and if they find a language with the Americans, then this issue may well be resolved. Therefore, never listen to all those who throw horror stories into the information field. China is there, here, neither today nor tomorrow will attack Taiwan and war. Do you even know how many millions of people there are? Do you even know what kind of war it will be? This is not what is happening today on the Russian-Ukrainian front. It will be worse. And don't forget, this is China, this is not Russia. And the Americans do not need it for nothing, because America does not trade with Russia. How much does America trade with China? Almost the same amount as the European Union. In total, this is $1.5 trillion. That is, the West trades with China for $1.5 trillion. And they will fight for Taiwan? They will just agree, and everything as they agreed in the 70s. Therefore, this is how it is viewed. And the statement by the State Department spokesperson is a purely American narrative. It is not a Ukrainian narrative. Yes, they could lobby in a certain place, because it is beneficial to the West. It is beneficial to everyone, because today all those who support Ukraine in one way or another, they are interested in China's loyalty. And so that he does not drift towards Russia. If he cannot directly involve and support Ukraine, then at least he would not drift towards Russia and would be more and more loyal to Ukraine.